Welcome back to the deep dive, where we really try to cut through the noise and pull out those essential insights you need to stay, well, truly informed. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's just fundamentally reshaped the whole landscape of business, risk management, and particularly, how it intersects with the lightning-fast world of technology. We're sort of going on a journey from just putting out fires.
Yeah, active firefighting, yeah.
To actually strategically anticipating the future. And look, for anyone navigating the complexities of modern business, I think this is a deep dive you really won't want to miss. Okay, so today our analysis is anchored in a really fantastic piece of material. It's titled 11 Information Technology and ERMs. And this insightful content was created by EasyPathUni by coordinations with Yazan Ibrahim.
And speaking of that, for this particular deep dive, you've got the benefit of insights from someone with, well, quite extensive hands-on experience right in this field. Having served as a head of audit for a financial department, I've really seen these challenges unfold in real time. My background is backed up by a pretty robust set of industry certifications: CIS, CF, GRCP, GRCA, IPPA, FMVA, CBCA, BDA. They span audit, fraud examination, financial modeling, risk governance. It all helps ensure, a truly comprehensive understanding of this pretty complex landscape. My skills in audit, risk management, financial analysis, combined with a strong educational foundation, well, it means we could hopefully connect the theory with the practical real-world stuff.
That's fantastic. Exactly why we're thrilled to have you. So what does all this mean for you, our listener? Well, our mission today is basically to cut through any jargon, clarify how IT risk has evolved, maybe highlight some surprising facts, and really give you those aha moments, make you feel properly well-informed about, honestly, one of the most critical bits of business strategy today. Okay, let's unpack this. The great shift from reactive IT risk management to proactive ERM. Right. Let's kick off with what the material calls the great shift. It talks about this dramatic move from the old way of managing risk to a modern mandate. Can you kind of paint a picture for us? How did we used to approach IT risk, and why fundamentally wasn't it enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, IT risk management was often reactive, almost defensive, you could say. And it was largely kept within the IT department itself. Think of it like a fortress mentality. Yeah. The focus was squarely on protecting, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the CIA triad of IT systems. Individual risks like a data breach here, maybe the system outage over there, they were just treated in isolation. Assessments were often manual, pretty qualitative, and irregular, like taking a single snapshot in a world that's moving incredibly fast.
A snapshot that's instantly out of date, basically.
Exactly. The problem is that snapshot quickly becomes outdated. And this fragmented, siloed model, well, it proved increasingly inadequate. As businesses started embracing e-commerce, global supply chains got tangled up, financial instruments got more complex, those seemingly isolated risks. They began to cascade right across the entire organization. The limitations became, frankly, catastrophically clear with those high-profile corporate failures back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. Enron, WorldCom.
Unforgettable.
They weren't just about financial fraud, though. They really exposed these deep systemic vulnerabilities, where a narrow view of risk in just one department could literally bring down the whole enterprise. It was a huge wake-up call, showed how interconnected everything really was.
Those failures were genuinely seismic, weren't they? The material suggests they led directly to this powerful solution in enterprise risk management, or ERM. But playing devil's advocate for a second, was ERM really a solution, or was it more of a reaction that's maybe still evolving? And what was the biggest hurdle initially?
That's a really fair challenge. And look, while it was certainly fueled by those failures, ERM was also, I think, a genuine paradigm shift. It actually started emerging back in the early 1990s, not just as a quick fix, but as a proactive, integrated, really enterprise-wide approach.
Right.
The biggest hurdle, often cultural.
Right.
Breaking down those deep-seated departmental silos where risk was always seen as, well, someone else's problem.
Right. Not my job.
Exactly. ERM consciously tries to shift that.
Yeah.
It views risk not just defensively, but as actually central to creating value, to achieving strategic objectives. The 2017 COSO framework, Enterprise Risk Management Integrating with Strategy and Performance, really hammered this home. It emphasized that risk thinking needs to be baked into the very process of setting and executing strategy. It wasn't just about stopping bad things from happening. It was about enabling smart growth.
And this completely transformed the risk leader role, didn't it? Moving way beyond just compliance. The material describes the modern chief risk officer, the CRO, as a strategic advisor, a data-driven strategist, even an alignment guru. They're apparently at the table for early strategic decisions and, in complex places, report straight to the CEO or the board. What does that actually mean for their day-to-day compared to the old functional manager?
Oh, it's night and day. The old risk manager might have spent their day making sure compliance checklists were ticked off, maybe dealing with insurance policies or, reacting after something bad happened. A modern CRO, they're deeply embedded in the business strategy itself. They're asking questions like, okay, if we pursue this new market, what are the inherent risks and opportunities? How does this big tech investment impact our overall risk profile? They're interpreting complex data, building predictive models, translating really sophisticated risk insights into like actionable business language for the board.
So less jargon, more impact.
Precisely. They're a driver of the strategic discussion, not just the person who delivers the bad news after the fact.
Right, and that shift was clearly boosted by, increased business complexity, those intertwined global markets. And the scandals obviously spurred regulations like Sarbanes-Oxley SOX, which demanded stronger internal controls, more executive accountability.
Huge pressure.
And this pressure really encouraged companies to adopt formal risk frameworks like COSO. So just to quickly summarize the core differences the material points out. We moved from risk as a cost center to value creation.
Yes.
From siloed to enterprise-wide, reactive to proactive.
Big shift.
Insurable risks to strategic opportunities, static reports to dynamic dashboards, and from that functional manager role to a proper strategic advisor. That's a powerful summary. But let's push on that value creation point a bit. For our listeners who are maybe already quite clued in, what's a surprising, maybe even counterintuitive way a modern CRO actually quantifies that value? How does it go beyond just stopping losses to genuinely boosting a company's strategic edge in a way that just wasn't possible before?
That's an excellent question, and it really gets to the heart of it. It's not just about what you don't lose. It's about the doors that good risk management actually opens. A truly surprising insight, I think, is how can genuinely accelerate innovation. Imagine, say, a fintech company wanting to launch some revolutionary new product. A robust, proactive framework lets them model and understand potential regulatory risks, data security risks, market adoption risks before they sink huge amounts of investment.
So they can move faster with more confidence.
Exactly. This foresight doesn't just prevent failure. It gives them the confidence and the agility to launch faster, capture market share ahead of competitors who are maybe less risk-aware. It literally turns risk management into an innovation accelerator. That's a genuinely profound shift, moving it from just a bureaucratic chore to a real competitive differentiator. 2. Navigating the modern risk landscape. Application systems, supply chains, and the double-edged sword of AI.
That's a fantastic example of risk management actually creating tangible value. But okay, this incredible shift then forces us to face a whole new generation of risks, particularly in the digital age. Risks defined by, complexity, speed, deep interconnectedness. Where are we seeing these pop up most prominently today?
Well, zooming out a bit, one of the primary battlegrounds right now is analyzing threats coming from modern application systems and these sprawling global supply chains. Organizations are just critically dependent now on third-party software, on cloud services. We've all heard that phrase, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And in the digital age, that weakest link is so often somewhere in your vendor ecosystem. A single vulnerability in, say, a popular SaaS platform can trigger mass disruptions across literally thousands of businesses. The SolarWinds attack back in 2020 is such a stark example. Attackers compromised government data by hitting a vendor software update mechanism, created a backdoor right into federal systems.
Scary stuff.
And it's not just about the vendors themselves. It's often about inadequate vendor due diligence or frequently unclear responsibility models with cloud providers, where companies mistakenly assume nearly always a shared responsibility model.
Right. You still have to lock your own doors, essentially.
Precisely. And we've also seen incidents where a vulnerability in some ubiquitous open source library used by thousands of applications suddenly created this massive attack surface for companies all over the globe.
Yeah. And what I find particularly fascinating in the material is how AI isn't just a tool for risk management anymore, but it's actually fundamentally changing the source of risk, especially in software development itself. Can you walk us through some of the maybe more subtle ways AI-generated code might be embedding vulnerabilities that we're not even fully aware of yet?
Oh, absolutely. The promise of AI in speeding up development is, well, it's huge, but it definitely comes with perils. When AI models are trained on these vast data sets of existing code, they can inadvertently learn and then just reproduce insecure patterns. We're talking things like hard-coded secrets, SQL injection vulnerabilities, maybe cross-site scripting, XSS. If these flaws were common in the training data, guess what? They can creep right into the newly generated code.
So it learns bad habits.
It's like teaching a child to write using faulty examples, essentially.
Mhm.
And beyond just generating code, AI-generated test cases might seem incredibly efficient, but they often lack that nuanced kind of attacker mindset needed to really probe for critical security scenarios. And then there's the whole privacy angle. AI models, especially these large language models, can sometimes accidentally reproduce sensitive, personally identifiable information PII from their training sets if they're not managed very, very carefully. It's a whole new frontier for code review and security testing, really.
That's a chilling thought, actually. It really seems like AI is this double-edged sword here, not just creating new risks in development, but also being actively weaponized by attackers.
Precisely. On one side, yeah, attackers are leveraging AI for much smarter targeting. They're using generative AI to craft these highly personalized, incredibly convincing social engineering emails, phishing campaigns. Deep fake technology is being used for really sophisticated scams, making it super difficult to verify identities anymore.
You can't trust your eyes or ears sometimes.
Right. We're also seeing self-managing botnets powered by AI, adaptive DDoS attacks that actually learn how to evade detection, and even these adversarial AML techniques specifically designed to manipulate and bypass security models. It's all about making attacks faster, more scalable, and just much harder to spot. But on the flip side, organizations are simultaneously deploying AI as a really crucial shield. It's powering real-time anomaly detection, moving us from just what happened to trying to figure out what might happen next using predictive analytics.
Seeing trouble before it hits.
Hopefully. Think about systems that can flag unusual login patterns or data exfiltration attempts in milliseconds. The material even suggests that by 2025, AI is expected to enable automated mitigation, so systems responding to attacks in seconds, potentially minimizing the need for immediate human intervention. It's also being used for things like behavior-based filtering to cut down on false positives in security alerts, cutting through the noise so human analysts can focus on the real threats.
So we end up with this incredible, accelerated and continuous feedback loop of innovation and counter-innovation, as the material nicely puts it. For companies, what does this actually mean in terms of the pace they need to respond? Are we talking real-time, continuous vigilance now, not just, quarterly audits?
Oh, absolutely. It's really no longer about periodic checkups. It's about continuous monitoring and maintaining an adaptive posture. If you're not integrating AI defense tools into a framework that's constantly learning and adjusting, you are, frankly, fighting a drone with a sword. It's just not going to work.
Outmatched.
Completely. The sheer volume and speed of threats mean human-only intervention just isn't sufficient anymore. Organizations really need to invest in security automation, in threat intelligence platforms that leverage AI, and in processes that allow for rapid iteration and deployment of new defenses. And stepping back even further, the proliferation of AI also introduces pretty significant geopolitical and regulatory risks. Organizations have to navigate this complex patchwork of global regulations like the EU AI Act, which is trying to ensure AI systems are safe, transparent, non-discriminatory.
That sounds like a minefield.
It is. The challenge is balancing that drive for innovation with putting in guardrails against things like data bias or lack of transparency, especially for models trained on these huge, varied data sets. The NECD, for instance, provides guidance for boards to proactively address these AI governance challenges. They emphasize the need to ask critical questions about ethical use, effective use cases, and importantly, how third-party AI risk is being managed. It's a real tightrope walk, leveraging these incredibly powerful tools while ensuring responsible deployment. 3. Building resilience, business continuity, disaster recovery, and the technology backbone.
Okay, that's a powerful framework, but it also brings, a lot of complexity. Let's pivot now to the practical side. How do organizations actually build resilience against these evolving threats? I know you've seen a lot of confusion around terms like business continuity, disaster recovery. Can you help us clarify those? And maybe, importantly, explain why these distinctions matter so much today.
Absolutely. And understanding these is more crucial than ever because they're not just, semantic differences. They represent a real fundamental shift in mindset. Think of business continuity, or BC, as the big umbrella strategy. It's about keeping the entire business operational during and after any disruption. Could be a natural disaster, a cyber attack, a pandemic, anything.
Keeping the lights on business-wise.
Exactly. Maintaining critical business functions. Now, disaster recovery, or DR, is a subset of BC. It focuses specifically on restoring the IT infrastructure and data after a disruptive event hits. It's the technical recovery plan, IT resilience, though, that represents a more modern, proactive approach.
Yeah.
It's the ability of IT systems to actually maintain acceptable service during a disruption. It emphasizes prevention, building systems that can dynamically withstand threats rather than just recovering afterwards.
So bending, not breaking.
That's a great way to put it. The modern trend really emphasizes building in resilience from the very start, so you bend but don't break. For example, a company might have a DR plan to restore its servers in, say, 24 hours. Okay. But a resilient system might involve having redundant cloud infrastructure that automatically fails over to a secondary region, meaning potentially zero downtime for the business. That's a massive competitive advantage.
Right. So an effective program really integrates BC and DR, making sure recovery objectives line up with the broader business goals. It's not just about getting the IT back up, but making sure the whole business can actually function. And this means proactive stuff like scenario analysis, stress testing, that becomes vital to understanding those complex cause and effect links and enabling faster decisions when things go wrong. How do companies practically implement scenario analysis for, say, a major cyber event? What does that look like?
Yeah, it moves way beyond just theoretical discussions. Practical scenario analysis for a cyber event usually involves things like tabletop exercises.
Yeah.
You get key stakeholders, IT, legal, communications, exec leadership around a table, and you walk through a simulated incident step by step.
Like a war game.
Kind of, yeah. They'd ask, okay, if we experienced a ransomware attack that encrypts 70% of our production data, what's our immediate response? Who makes the call to pay or not pay? How do we talk to customers, regulators? Stress testing might involve actually taking a non-critical system offline to test recovery times, or maybe simulating a data breach to make sure the incident response plans actually work under pressure. This isn't just about finding weaknesses, it's about building that muscle memory, uncovering interdependencies that maybe aren't obvious until you're really under the gun. And this raises a really important point. How on earth do organizations manage all this complexity, these myriad risks, compliance requirements, all across the enterprise? Well, a key development here, highlighted in the material, is the rise of the modern GRC platform. GRC standing for governance, risk, and compliance. We've probably all seen those Frankenstein spreadsheets, right? Where someone's entire risk management system is basically a nightmare of tabs and linked cells.
Oh, yeah, I've lived that nightmare.
The modern GRC platform is essentially slaying that beast. It's replacing those outdated manual processes, all those disparate spreadsheets, subjective human judgments with automated, real-time, data-driven tools. They serve as a single source of truth for all risk and compliance data.
And these platforms are packed with powerful features, right? We're talking automated workflows that cut down on human error, free up risk teams for more strategic analysis by handling the routine stuff. Then there's predictive analytics and AI, analyzing huge data sets to spot subtle patterns, forecast risks that maybe human analysts might miss. How does that actually translate into delivering what might happen next? Insight for a business leader.
Well, think about it this way. Instead of just seeing a report saying we had 10 data breaches last quarter, a GRC platform with AI might analyze vulnerability scan data, patch management trends, maybe employee training records, even external threat intelligence feeds. It could then predict, maybe with a certain confidence level, something like, based on factors X, Y, and Z, there's a 30% likelihood of a significant insider threat incident in the next 6 months if no action is taken.
Wow, okay. That's actionable.
Exactly. It moves from just descriptive reporting, what happened, to more prescriptive guidance, what you should do. And finally, those dashboards and reporting features offer customizable real-time visuals, think heat maps, key risk indicators, KRIs, which translate complex technical data into digestible, actionable insights for non-technical executives and the board. Lets them grasp the severity and impact at a glance. A really practical example is Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, compliance. Historically, this was a hugely manual-intensive process. Auditors sifting through mountains of paperwork. Modern GRC platforms can automate large parts of internal control testing, continuously monitor for discrepancies, provide audit-ready reports. It significantly streamlines the whole process and reduces the burden. For instance, the PCAOB QC 1000 standard, which guides quality control for public accounting firms, actually reinforces this risk-based approach with a continuous feedback loop for improvement. It's about building that self-correction mechanism even into the auditor's own processes, moving from just a yearly audit towards continuous assurance.
So what does this all mean for the very fabric, the nature of risk management itself? This technological shift seems to fundamentally alter risk data. It transforms it from being static, maybe qualitative, often quite biased information, into something dynamic, quantitative, and more objective. a living snapshot, as the material calls it. And this isn't just a tech upgrade. It enables more accurate assessments, better predictive analytics, proactive intervention, leading to a more resilient, more agile organization that can literally see risks starting to emerge on the horizon. 4, the new governance model. Collaboration, accountability, and strategic reporting.
Yeah.
Okay, with all this complexity, all this dynamic data flying around, robust governance structures and, crucially, sophisticated communication become incredibly important for managing modern risk effectively. What framework helps organizations structure this? Make sure everyone knows their role.
Yeah, the three lines model, which originally came from the Institute of Internal Auditors, provides an exceptionally clear, a really structured framework for governance and risk management. Think of it like this. The first line. These are your business units, managers, frontline employees. They're the owners of the risk. They're responsible for identifying and managing risk as part of their daily jobs. They're on the ground, making the decisions.
Doing the work, taking the risk.
Exactly. Then you have the second line. This includes your risk management and compliance functions, often led by the CRO. They provide oversight, guidance, set policies and frameworks for that first line. They're kind of like the coaches, making sure everyone's playing by the rules and understands the overall game plan. And finally, the third line. This is internal audit. They provide independent assurance keyword, independent to senior management and the board, on how effective risk management and controls are across both the first and second lines. They're like the impartial referees, ensuring fairness and integrity in the system.
Right, and the material emphasizes how this model really promotes collaboration, helps avoid duplicated efforts, ensures clear accountability. Everyone knows their specific role in the whole risk ecosystem, from the front lines right up to the boardroom. What are some common pitfalls, though? Where do companies tend to stumble when they try to implement this model?
Yeah, good question. A really common pitfall is the first line not fully owning their risk. Instead, they try to push responsibility up to the second or third line.
Let the risk team worry about it.
Exactly. Or conversely, the second line becomes too operational, starts essentially doing the first line's job, which just blurs the lines and compromises their vital oversight role. Another challenge is ensuring genuine independence for that third line, internal audit. Their ability to provide unbiased assurance is absolutely critical. The model really works best when all three lines clearly understand their distinct roles but collaborate effectively, not in silos, but as a cohesive, interconnected system. But perhaps the real breakthrough point here, the critical challenge, is communicating risk effectively to non-technical executives and the board. It absolutely shouldn't be a technical exercise just loaded with acronyms. It needs to be a strategic conversation, focused on implications, financial impact, actionable recommendations. Because overly detailed, jargon-filled reports, they simply won't cut it. And frankly, they just disengage the very decision makers you need to influence.
And this is where modern risk reporting, powered by technology, can really transform that conversation, right? We're looking at things like dynamic dashboards providing that living snapshot of risk, maybe with drill-down functionality for those who do need more detail. Key risk indicators, KRIs, offering that high-level aggregated focus on what truly matters strategically. What's an example of a KRI that would genuinely resonate with a board member rather than just, say, a security engineer?
Okay, so instead of reporting something technical like patching completion rate for critical vulnerabilities is 85%, a KRI for the board might be something like percentage of business critical applications currently at high risk due to unmitigated vulnerabilities. And critically, you'd pair that with something like estimated financial impact range of these unmitigated high-risk areas.
Ah, okay. Translating tech speak into dollars and cents, essentially.
Precisely. It translates the technical into a business-relevant metric they can understand and act upon. And finally, there's risk aggregation and normalization. This is about translating those intangible risks, think reputational damage, regulatory noncompliance, into quantifiable financial terms where possible, giving that holistic view that board members can directly tie back to shareholder value. Stepping back, this whole shift really empowers boards to move beyond just a box-ticking exercise for compliance. They can actually engage in continuous, data-driven conversations about emerging threats, about opportunities. They can fulfill their oversight duties far more effectively, especially in this post-SOX era. It fundamentally elevates risk from just being a compliance burden to being a genuine strategic asset. Outro.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive that was. We've really covered a profound transformation today, haven't we? Moving from that defensive, reactive, siloed manual approach to a proactive, strategic, integrated, and really technology-driven paradigm for IT risk management. It feels like a completely new era.
It really is. The new IT risk paradigm isn't just about having new tools, it's a fundamental philosophical shift.
Yeah.
It recognizes that IT risk management is now a core component of enterprise risk management overall. It directly enables value creation and can provide a critical competitive advantage. It's not just about avoiding losses anymore. It's really about building resilience and agility right into the core of your organization.
So for you, our listener, thinking about takeaways, here are maybe some strategic recommendations from this deep dive. First, really try to foster a truly risk-aware culture within your organization. Make risk management a shared responsibility driven by clear communication from the top down. Second, integrate technology into your governance. Seriously consider implementing a modern GRC platform as that central hub for all your risk data.
Absolutely key.
Third, maybe realign your governance structure with the three lines model. Ensure those roles and responsibilities are crystal clear. Foster that seamless collaboration. And finally, upgrade your reporting for strategic impact. Use those dynamic dashboards, use KRIs that speak the board's language, focusing on business implications and financial impact. And maybe, as we look to the horizon, here's a final thought for you to mull over. Given the just exponential speed of AI's development, how might organizations actually future-proof their risk strategies? Go beyond even the continuous monitoring we've discussed today. How do you anticipate risks that haven't even fully materialized yet? It's a huge question, challenging us to think not just about current threats, but about the very nature of unforeseen disruption itself. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope these insights inspire you to apply them in your own work, or maybe just spark further explorations. Until next time, stay curious.